Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I've spent a good portion of my life hiking the wilds of the lower 48. Most local law enforcement, park rangers, and busybodies in nearby towns will give you the skinny. The answer is it's people. From grow ops to homeless mountain men to bored killers. I've only had something close to this happen to me once. I was deep in the Colorado wilderness on the other side of the Continental Divide from the Animas River. I had done some peaks and was coming back to my camp in the late afternoon. I saw some movement by my camp, so I pulled out my binoculars. A filthy man wearing old-ass hiking equipment, probably in his late 40s, was approaching my camp really slowly with an old side-by-side shotgun in his hands. I keep a GP100 on me when hiking in that region in case of black bear. I was maybe 200 yards away and shot some 30 feet above his head. He ran. I watched him run quickly down the valley for almost a quarter mile. I quickly packed up my camp, tent and a few things, and got the fuck out of there. I've made it back to Durango that night on foot. I was completely smoked at the end. I'm pretty sure had I been unlucky or unprepared, I may have been murdered for my food and equipment.
I was scouting some ranges I want to hunt in Colorado. I was sitting on a crest enjoying a sandwich and glassing a valley and thinking about elk when I saw a group of people hiking up the slope. Nearest place to leave your car was like 5 miles and a 1,000-yard decline, so I was kinda surprised, but it was a great weekend to hike and I was on the fringe of the Rocky Mountain National Park, so whatever. They got up onto the plateau on the other side of the bowl and disappeared into some timber, and less than 10 minutes later came a solo guy who was 100% following them and 100% did not want them to see him. I don't know how to describe it, I just felt it in my gut. I just fucking knew he was up to something. The group I had seen were all quite young and in various Lumo hiking outfits, and this dude was looking kinda worn down and was in his late 40s. Just seems out of place, and the way he was moving was just so weird. Spooked me enough that I double-timed it around the lip for an interception. Took half an hour, but I managed to beat him, and I managed to find a spot where I was about 200 yards away from the trail, but also about 100 yards higher, so well outside of the danger zone. Once he slunk around the corner, I stood up and shouted, "Hello," at him as loud as I could and waved like a Mormon on a mission. At first he shat a fucking brick and almost cartwheeled off the mountain, but then sheepishly waved back and then kind of milled around. Meanwhile, I was already humping up the mountain as I wanted to put altitude between him and me. I circled back to my spot and went back to my business, moved camp deeper into the timber and found a higher glassing spot to watch my immediate surroundings. Never saw them or him again. Either he is telling a story to his friends about a weird guy in camo who greeted him on a mountain, or having a third party see him on the mountain and then vanish into the timber interrupted any plans he may have had.
I have seen weird things in the forest in Colorado, and after I read about the missing 411 stuff when it was new, I was pretty spooked to go back into the woods for a while. But I think 99% of it is people getting lost and dying during storms, stumbling on grow ops and getting killed, etc. Really, the only weird thing I saw was some shit out of True Detective, with some occult-looking symbols in red paint on a big boulder in the absolute middle of nowhere. But it was obviously just some psychotic painting creepy stuff, high on drugs. Unsettling, but not like actually paranormal. I also imagine some of the disappearances are people being murdered by friends, family, or coworkers who know they go to the wilderness a lot. Just stalk them and kill them there, and less chance of getting caught? Probably should investigate the families of these missing people.
I grew up in the Ozarks of Arkansas, and I've been keenly aware of the threats in the deep forest since I was a boy. Even setting aside the supernatural or cryptozoological stories, There are things out there not to be trifled with. First and foremost is nature. The Ozarks are unpredictable, with caverns and mineshafts abound. Within them are some of the largest cougars I've had the misfortune of seeing, and anyone dumb enough to explore them will likely find a myriad of remains that will damn well tell you not to venture deeper. Folks go missing when they go off trail. Sometimes, the earth itself will swallow a man for a misstep. The bigger threat is what's been prevalent in the thread already. Some folks out there want to be left alone. Maybe because they run a grow-up. Maybe because they don't fit into society. There's your wrong turn types. Sure. But there's also the mountain hobos and serial killers. My folks and my friends' folks warned about the madmen in the hills who would kill you for your shoes if you wandered off alone. Make no mistake, there's a reasonable explanation for some of these disappearances. I know goddamn well and for certain there's more than men and cats out there, though.
Something lives in Devil's Den.
You have to understand. Devil's Den is a well-trafficked park. That trail often has dozens if not hundreds of people on it during a good day. This was over the summer months. One of these guys had to have been trail spotting specifically for easy targets. Just hoping for the best with your bait is a guaranteed way to fail to get what you want. This wasn't the deep forest. This was an unmarked trail. This was a family vacation spot. The real Ozarks are something else entirely. But I do agree with you. Unnatural shit does happen there. Rodney Letterman is a good example.
Had something similar happened around 10 years ago. B19. I decided to go camping in Huron National Forest with my friend. Bring my brand new Saiga I just got at the local gun show. Hike to our campsite in a decently remote spot. Set up and have a nice day. That night I wake up to soft footsteps near my ear. Still hear my friend snoring, so it's not him. Think bear until I hear my friend's tent zipper getting pulled. Grab my AK, turn my flashlight on and burst out of my tent. Filthy Asian/Indian man with a machete looks at me like a deer in headlights. Scream at him to put down the knife or I'll put a hole in him. He just runs, but puts himself between my friend's tent and I, so I can't risk a shot. Friend's tent is halfway open and he is pretty freaked out. Pack up and leave, looking over my shoulder constantly. Call cops when I get a signal, but nothing really comes of it. I am very paranoid when camping now and can't really get to sleep all these years later.
Are these mountain hobos mentally dumb or what? Was he going to stealth machete, kill your friend, then move on to you? I really don't understand his strategy here. Is your hiking shit in the tent and he just wants to steal it? Man, if I ever am in these situations with a mountain hobo, I'm shooting 100% of the time.
Man, if I ever am in these situations with a mountain hobo, I'm shooting 100% of the time. You're going to be just fine 99.9% of the time, simply because dead men tell no tales. These mountain hobos you and others are talking about are very real and very problematic. I'll green text some encounters/stories I have of them. My first real encounter with one. Me 17, summertime, on a hike in a not-so-popular state park. 3 days and 5 miles out from the trailhead. Cresting a hill. See birds of carrion circling, lots of them. Can't see what they're circling, but it's in the direction I'm heading. I'll see soon enough. Crest next hill, looking down into the prairie, scrub brush area. Pull binos out. It's a body. Look again. It's a body. Heart going like fucking crazy at this point. Hit the dirt, couldn't move for what felt like an eternity. Get back up, look again. It's still a body. Unsure what to do. Things don't feel/seem right. Circle in a little closer and to the 3 o'clock position, had been at the 6 o'clock when I saw the body. About 250 yards away with 12x binos, see that the person ran into the area out of the tree line another 200 yards away, collapsed and crawled for a bit then bled out. Decided that whoever killed them was between me and the trailhead and that I wasn't going in that direction. Still plenty of daylight going to head east, trailhead was northwest, till I hit a state road 9 miles away. Got to state road, start hitching back to town, the trailhead is outside of. Get into town, go to the police station to report the body. Turns out that it was some serial Discord modist who had run up on a couple he thought was unarmed. They weren't, guy took 2 in the gut and bled out.
I'd say people are generally a bigger threat compared to any wild animal. I've heard of people managing to fend off mountain lions with not much more than rocks and sticks. Although I suppose if they took you unawares or at night they could be a serious threat. The issue is trying to judge whether or not the people you find out in the middle of nowhere are the type who will attack you. For example, let's look at their Anon stories. You hear something behind you on your headphones and turn around to see a dirty-looking guy. Is it the harmless mountain man, or the serial Discord modist? It is that sort of judgment call that's the hard part. I'd like to think that most folks probably aren't serial Discord modist, but at the same time you never really know.
I can say from experience that I'd rather not fight off a cougar even if armed with a high-powered rifle. I've seen them go into full-blown attack mode and they are far, far faster than my reaction time could save me. The worst part is that they more often than not will never let you know they're stalking you. Best deterrent is numbers or a large dog or 2. Keep in mind that Ozark cougars regularly kill black bears for food. As far as the people go, don't ever trust anyone on the trails. Don't ever let yourself be caught alone. Always be armed. Always have a friend or a dog to fight alongside you. It doesn't matter if the person looks normal. It doesn't matter if they look helpless. I know 2 girls who almost died when they went to help an injured girl on a trail, and were subsequently ambushed by 2 men using her as bait.
Not the most spooky national park story, but I still think about it. Hiking a trail in the Smokies with 2 of my friends. Starts storming, so we set up a tent and tarp pavilion and chilled out. The storm gets really bad, but we are dry under our pavilion. Sit out there watching the storm that was getting progressively worse. Around 1 a.m. we see someone running. It's an Asian girl in her late teens wearing nothing but panties. Obviously in distress. We stare at each other and my one friend yells over the wind that we can help. She just yells something in an Asian language, looks the way she came and continues running as fast as she could. We sat stunned for a second, but my friend started running after her because he knew she would definitely die out there with no protection from the weather and no light. Me and my other friend grabbed our guns and flashlights and followed. Storm so bad that water is gushing down the mountain on the trail. Catch up with my friend where the footsteps end. Yell for her, but the wind and thunder drown out any noise we make. Pretty sure she fell, but the storm was so bad we couldn't risk looking for her. Wait to see if anyone comes behind her, but no one came. When the storm let up we went straight to the cops. They guess human trafficking, but we were in the middle of nowhere. I still have nightmares about her terrified eyes. I am sure she died in that storm.
Devil's Den. Many years back, on the Butterfield hiking trail. The girls were childhood friends who were on break from college in Fayetteville. They were from the area and grew up with the same stories we all did. It's why they went to marked trails in a real park. Story goes, about 8 miles into the trail, hear female sobbing some distance from the path. They call out to see if someone needs help. Girl starts crying out that she's hurt. They go to help and find her just beyond a small hill out of sight of the trail. One girl feels this is fishy. Other girl moves to help the injured one. As she gets closer, some greasy bearded fuck rushes out from behind some brush. Girl who was weirded out draws her concealed carry. Guy freezes. Injured girl scrambles to her feet and bolts into the woods. Another man comes out of the trees to join her. In the confusion, the girl with the gun takes her eyes off the other man who bolts in another direction. Reports were made, but no one was caught. Good news is, the girl who wasn't armed bought a gun because of it.
Be in Muir Woods National Park with Hippy Dippy Aunt, 17 years old at the time. Come up on a trail that had a redwood fall across it and had been closed.
Anon, let's climb the tree and take the trail. Nobody else will be on it.
Go more than a few minutes without making loud and active conversation. Feel as if I'm being watched. Start making it a point to look behind me every couple seconds. Let her know and she has a mini freakout, albeit quietly. Tell her our best course of action is to continue down the trail as it meets up with the main section of the trail in about 1.5 miles, and there will be enough people and hopefully game wardens to keep us safe. Keep scanning behind me high and low every few seconds. Still feel like I'm being watched. At this point both of us are ready to kill or die, and we're both nearly spooked out of our goddamn minds. As we get close to the main trail, some God-blessed jogger is blasting music on a nature trail, and only once it's close enough to hear the lyrics clearly do we not feel like we're being watched anymore. Get stopped by a game warden and asked why we had taken a very clearly closed trail and climbed over a 25 in thick fallen tree to do so. Aunt jumps in with, "Well, we just wanted a special experience. I figured nobody else would be on the trail." Ranger calmly explains that the tree falling reduced foot traffic so much through that area of the forest in the 5 weeks preceding that visit that local cougars were hunting in that area of the park, and that was why the trail was closed. Pulls up trail cam footage. They have the nice ones that use cellular networks to send footage back and just need batteries replaced occasionally, recharge using solar. We watch as an easily 200-pound cougar stalks low out of the bushes from about 50 yards behind us. If I hadn't felt that feeling and told her about it and been scanning my surroundings or had earphones in or anything, we'd both be dead. Me being a big dude also helped.
That's pretty crazy, Anon. Muir Woods is like a backyard with how much tourist traffic it gets, at least in the valley. I wouldn't try to hike a closed trail, but it's one of the last places where I'd think cougars would be.
Apparently it happens pretty often and the Park Service just keeps it under wraps. I about shat my pants in the ranger's office watching the footage. Because of all the development of the surrounding areas, a lot of wildlife gets forced into the park and can't get out, and there's only so much food to go around. I'd have fought like hell if it came down to it, but short of shoving my arm down its throat and choking it to death or tearing its tongue out like that Kenyan farmer that killed a cheetah with his bare hands and kiting long enough for bleed out to happen, I'd have been irredeemably fucked. Ranger's best guess was me being a big dude, my aunt not being a small lady at 6'1" either, and both of us being on high alert was the only reason we just got stalked instead of hunted and killed. Lot of folks go through Muir Woods expecting it to just be a pretty green trail since it's not far from civilization proper, but the reality is quite a few people die there every year. The ranger I spoke with wanted to ban headphones from the park since they'd been implicated in a lot of cougar attacks. Theory is we can subconsciously hear and feel when we're being stalked as an evolutionary defense, and interfering with the senses is enough to completely shut it off and get folks killed.
You have no idea how lucky you are. Cougars are extremely effective killing machines, and they are incredibly territorial and vicious as hell. They can and will attack for sport or boredom, too. I've hunted all manner of danger across the US, and I'd take a one-on-one encounter with literally anything else over a cougar. The fear those motherfuckers instill in me has only been beaten once. It was when I came across a full-sized male, wounded cougar in a tree screaming at the top of its lungs in abject horror without ever even looking at me or my dad. It completely ignored us because something else was a bigger threat. There isn't much on the continent that can take a cougar in a fight, either.
Actual full-blooded coyotes aren't shit. You or I could kick a group of them to death without too much trouble aside from some scrapes and puncture wounds. Fuck with a coyote that's half German Shepherd. Fuck with a coyote that's bred with wolves in addition to other domesticated dog species. Fuck with a group of coyotes that match either or both of these descriptions. I guarantee you will die if you're not carrying and don't have your wits about you. Had to crack one of them across the mouth with a baseball bat in the yard of my ex's home one night. Apparently they'd been stalking the place for a while, and once she had to put her pit bull down. Beautiful animal, but he had wicked PTSD from being a bait dog before he was rescued. He bit me while I was giving him ear medicine, and the look on his face when his soul snapped back to existence. He knew that was the end. Paid $1,000 to take him to an abused dog sanctuary, so the ending was as happy as possible. They struck and tried to get one of the neighbor's barn cats that had wandered onto the property. It was easily 100 pounds, was not scared of me in the slightest even though I'm 5'7" and not a lanklet, and is probably still alive assuming the broken jaw and resulting sharp crack I heard healed at all properly and didn't starve it to death slowly. A coyote ain't shit. Even 6 of them ain't shit. More than that becomes a problem depending on how hungry they are. But there aren't any more regular coyotes except for specific areas of the country. Nowadays you've got coyote-wolf domestic mixes that are solidly in large dog-sized territory. I don't go more than 6 feet into the woods around here without my Tanfolio 10mm anymore because of it.
Be me. 18. Working the night shift. Live on outcropping over a steep ravine. Woods are about 100 acres, mostly steep, clay-riddled soil and dense wetland undergrowth. Dad tells me dogs are hitting on something around the fence line. Every night, I duct tape flashlight to shotgun and sweep the yard before letting the dogs out. Used the best flashlight, so Dad takes it off every morning and sweeps with .44 mag. Keeps it in his bedside table so can't use that. Lazy one night, grab a flashlight and step out the back door. Back door junk pile has a busted croquet set and one unblemished green mallet. White trash mjolnir.jpg. Sweep fence line casually. Don't think about making noise to spook something off. Make it to the back of the yard with a trail that goes down into the ravine. Shining light almost straight down. I realize there is a bobcat crouched into the hollow behind a root about 2 feet in front of me. Neither of us planned for this. We stare awkwardly, unsure of how to progress. Bobcat decides to bare its teeth and growl, getting low to the ground. Hammer time. WEBM. I foist my garbage mallet aloft and bring it down hard on the bobcat's head. Bobcat's face hits dirt, and it stands straight up and stares at me. Why have you done this? GIF. After another awkward stare, I decide round 2 is upon us and raise my hammer again. Bobcat bails. Not down the trail, no. Bobcat had enough of my shit and launches off the outcropping. Doesn't stop running. Thrashing brush fades into the distance. Wait 20 minutes to let dogs out and they still freak out. Bobcat never came back though. It seemed sensible enough. We just had a disagreement.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.